welcome to Branford Voices. I'm Tracy Everson. Today we're focusing on public safety here in Branford with our fire chief, Thomas Mahoney, and our fire marshal, Robert Dubazinski. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Tracy. Thanks for having us.
Sure.
Thank you.
So, Chief, let's start with you. You've been this has been a career for you, right?
Yes, not my first career. As I mentioned pre-show here, I had just had my second child. My first Morgans got laid off all within 3 months of each other, so I kind of had to figure things out. Went to paramedic school and was hired as a firefighter paramedic before I graduated in 1995. So I've been in Branford since 1995, and then moved to Branford in 2013, became the chief in 2015. So I've been the chief since 2015 now.
And how about you?
So I started in the fire department volunteering in 2002 with MP Rice Company 2.
Ah.
I had gotten out of high school in 2001 and then got into the fire department volunteering. Got hired in 2005 as a firefighter paramedic. Been with the department ever since. Moved up to the office in 2017 as the fire prevention inspector. And then in 2021 took over as the fire marshal.
Wow. All right. So these are you're both career.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's beneficial for Branford. So thank you both for your service. We'll get that right out of the gate here. So the end of 2025, this was put on the Branford Fire Department Facebook page. The stats calls for service, 7,044.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how busy we are as a department. And of course, the fire department's a little misnamed these days. We are truly an all hazards fire department. We do, we are the advanced life support, which paramedic, emergency medical services provider to the community, as well as fire department, and but a range of rescue services and other services that the community needs. We tend to do service calls such as lift assists. We like to be the gray area between when someone needs help before they can get other services in place. In other words, somebody becomes disabled, they're in need of a ramp or other means to get in and out, but they haven't had it in place yet. We do those sorts of services, the I've fallen and I can't get up type incidents
Right.
as well. So it really does cover a range of incidents. I mean, we are a marine-centric community, water-centric community. We have 10 marinas, and so we have 2 fireboats plus other small craft. We have a major interstate that runs through town, as you know, and then, of course, the Northeast Railway, as well as just being close to a very busy, kind of metro area in the New Haven metro area. So we tend to be very busy, and I think, most residents have probably noticed it's a little tougher to get around these days than when I started in 1995.
Yeah. We have a few more cars on the road,
Right.
a few more people in our town.
A little bit.
Yeah, a population of over 28,000 now. Yep. So, yes. Yep. So, one of the things that the fire department did recently, within the last year or so, the EMTs, adding 16 EMTs and kind of separating, if that's the correct way to put it, the services so that there's kind of the medical response and the firefighter paramedic, but are firefighter paramedics still the first ones out the door, so to speak?
So the firefighter paramedics will always be here as first responders, which is ambulances transport out of town. And for that reason, we chose to kind of go into this newer model where the EMT, or the basic emergency medical technician skill set, was a lot more people have that certification because it's less cumbersome to get it. Paramedic is almost a 2-year associate's degree program these days, and so it was. There's a lot more of a workforce out there. It's a less expensive workforce overall, and we felt that about 40% of our EMS call volume is basic life support, not requiring advanced care. So we just felt that was a more cost-effective model where we could, get the buy-in from the community to support that. I mean, 16 new people was a big undertaking.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
big
we
number.
don't typically get people before we need them. We're usually getting crushed, and that was the case. And there's a lot of things that we weren't able to accomplish because our EMS workload was so heavy. We weren't able to get training in. We're not just sitting around waiting for things and playing poker anymore. Those days have long passed. And the firefighters and our EMS personnel are very busy during the day when they're not actually doing calls. They're they're training. They're doing. We have a very wide-ranging skill set, and like any skill, if you don't exercise it, use it, you lose it. So we're very busy doing those types of things. And one of the Rob's the fire marshal, so that that's also under our umbrella is code enforcement and fire prevention and community risk reduction. I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. But one of the other hats he wears is as our technical rescue and hazardous materials trainer. So he oversees that curriculum and assists the deputy chief who's in charge of training and the other what we call drill masters in providing a curriculum that we have to follow. So we've been able to get back into that much more. We're able to answer our calls now instead of passing so many calls to other communities. And we're also able to be here more when you call 911 instead of being at your neighbor's house. And I think that's the thing that, people, I think people need to understand is that having emergency personnel doing nothing means they're available for you. So if we are engaged in other calls all the time, we're not here available for you. And so as you know, we started to see a very significant decline in volunteerism, not only in the fire department, but in pretty much all townwide agencies and organizations. So, our volunteers are fantastic. They give so much to the community, but our society has just changed. And that's really, it's not that people, I think, are different. I just think the time they have to give is less. And so, and
the training too. I mean, you can't just show up at the firehouse, take a fire engine out, and use a hose.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's training involved too.
There is a lot of training, and to their credit, the ones that are here do that, and then we do provide that training to volunteers. So. You can find applications on the fire department webpage and the town website. So if you're interested, please come down. But there has been a significant decline. I mean, when I first started, we had 7 volunteer companies, and now we have essentially 3. And each one of those volunteer companies used to have more than 35, 40 active members. They had auxiliaries, they had, other people, support personnel, that kind of thing. They were the hub of the community in each one of our unique districts in Branford, right? So Short Beach and Stony Creek and Indian Neck and so on, and even Pine Orchard. And so now I think we have a total of 41 volunteers, including our fire police, which are, typically the fire police will direct traffic and assist with those types of things. So that we could do the firefighting. They typically have been volunteers that have served and now are maybe a little bit, they're not going to put an air pack on and rush into a building to fight the fire, but they can give back. So there's many different opportunities in the volunteer side, but because of that big decline and the increased call volume, we were kind of in a area where we really needed to do something different.
Right. And it isn't, I think it's important to point out that it's not the taxpayer necessarily always paying. Part of what the ambulance service in our town does is it's revenue generating for our town. And we have the increased call volume, increased revenues, right?
That's correct. So last year we earned, after paying the billing company their fee for service, we brought in just over, we brought in a total of $2.5 million and change, and then we paid the billing company about $130,000 and change for their services.
Right.
Which that's that takes a big burden off of us because it's actually would require, additional staffing, and we would be paying for that staffing with their benefits and retirement and everything as well. So we've been using a building company for a long time. And while we're on the subject, I think it's important because we just had a fire commission meeting last night, and they brought to my attention that it was entirely anecdotal, but they had heard, one of the commissioners had heard that some of our senior residents in a particular senior building were reluctant to call an ambulance because of the charges that were either like a Medicare copay that's left over after, and it became very burdensome for them. So they were reluctant to call for service. And I just want to let the public know that we have means to assist with that. Sometimes, things happen to people. We'll look at your ability to pay, and if we're able to take care of it and write it off, we will. If you're, you just got to let us know. You got to communicate with us.
Right. You don't want someone to think, oh, I can't call because I can't afford it. No, if you're in distress, the whole reason why you're there on the other end of 911 is to have someone come and help you.
The revenue and billing is obviously important to providing a service. And the truth is that money that we bring in doesn't nearly cover the overhead to provide the service community. But it is one of the, we look at ourselves as one of the premier emergency medical service providers in the state of Connecticut. Our local medical control trusts us implicitly. We have good quality control, and we treat the community well. And we don't want them to feel that they can't call for help because of a money issue. So, the way the billing process works is if I don't hear from people, because we do thousands of calls a year. If I don't hear from people, I'm not aware of who may be in that predicament. So just reaching out and communicating with us and letting us know that you need that help instead of being reluctant to call when you need it. I think that's really important to let people know. And we're going to work with Dale over at the Senior Center and other, through other avenues to try to get the word out to our seniors to be like, be not afraid. We're here to help, and we don't want to make, add to your burden. That's not what we're here for.
That's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that anecdote, but an important one. Mm-hmm. Right. So, Fire Marshal Dobozinski.
Yes.
You have been a busy man lately. We've had a few fires, right?
Yes, we've had
the transfer station. We had Blakesley, right? We had Giovanni's Auto Body.
Yep.
Of course, the recent accident on 95 where there were, I don't even know how that happened. I saw the pictures today and I was like, oh my gosh.
That was a lucky one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That nobody was, but you don't do the accident investigation.
No, I don't do the accidents.
You just do the fire. Yeah.
Yep. If it's on fire, we have a duty to investigate it.
Yep.
So we've had numerous fires going back probably around November time, right? We had started. Like you said, we had the transfer station. All right.
Right. And what was the cause of that?
So that's what I wanted to bring up also. There's been always a lot of talk about lithium-ion batteries.
Right.
Now, I do have the cause of that down as accidental, right? And it is undetermined exactly what part started the fire. However, we did have a video that was on the building that helped us out with that. So you can see in a trash can in that building what appeared to be a lithium-ion battery, right? That went into what we call thermal runaway and produced a fire. Okay. So we were talking beforehand, and I gave you that information on the state.
Right. Yes.
That we'd like to get out.
Yep.
For how to properly dispose of lithium-ion batteries.
Right.
Right. So there's numerous places that you can dispose of them. And on that website, you can pump in your zip code, and then it'll tell you Home Depot, Lowe's, Staples, to just name a few.
Is it the www.calltorecycle.org?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yep.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Because everything seems to have
Everything's got a
lithium
battery
ion
nowadays.
batteries now in it.
Yep. Everything has a battery. And we've had fires where even like a tool battery for a screw gun was left on a car seat in a vehicle, right? It's parked, it sits there. The workers come in the next day and they find that the battery burned part of the seat. It put itself out, it smothered itself. it didn't get out of the vehicle, but we've had incidents like that.
Wow.
Yeah. They're
What
everywhere.
causes that? I mean, is it just
It
the
can
way that they're
be-
made, or
It
the?
can be anything. If they're
So-
damaged.
Damage from heat, damage from mechanical damage, dropping too many times. Salt and water can
Right.
be an enemy of those. And if you think about how a battery is built, they're built with very thin layers stacked up, and like Rob mentioned, when something fails and one starts to go, it then propagates more heat, more thermal runaway, and it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Wow. Yeah. Is there concern? I mean, I guess it's one of those things now. Homes now have big lithium battery panels, like for Tesla,
Yep.
or people with the solar panels. I mean, are there specific codes now for things like that? I mean, what do you do if that catches fire?
So, if pertaining to codes, all right, so the fire code is going to regulate multifamily dwellings and above, which are 3-family and above, right? Apartment buildings, things like that, and commercial spaces. But if you have your single family home, you have your garage, you throw some solar up on the roof, you put a Tesla battery charger, in your garage, that's regulated by building code. So that would be
okay.
the building official, the electrical inspector for the town. We do have some input because my office regularly is involved with the building department, and we have a good rapport with them. So we've been able to get information on where those are, and we put it into what we have is pre-planning documents. So we can go around town, we can find these target hazards, we'll call them, and know about it ahead of time, right? So if we know about there's a solar system on a roof, there's a battery charger in the garage. That helps us when we got to fight the fire, if there is a fire.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rob, is it fair to say that the expectation from the building side is that you follow the manufacturer's recommendation, that you're using the actual listed parts for the install with a certified installer?
Yeah.
So as long as those things typically are followed, the likelihood of a fire is much less, right?
Right.
Because again, we don't want to panic people and say, oh my God, you have these things. There's likelihood there's going to be a fire.
Right. Yes.
But a lot of the fire, especially if you think about a place like New York City, where there's just so many more people in a small area of, and a lot of these people are using e-bikes and they're hustling, right?
Right.
So, they'll go to aftermarket batteries because they're cheaper and they're not made to that specification. So we always recommend use the battery that was made for the device by the manufacturer for that device, unless it's listed by a reputable listing company, such as Underwriter Lab or somewhere like that, for that purpose, and that tends to lessen the likelihood of something going wrong.
Yeah, because now you see so many more e-bikes around town here, even. So that's really good advice. So, the fire department. You came from MP Rice. That's
did.
one of with the volunteers, right? That's one of the stronger houses in town.
Currently is, yep. And
Right.
they're collaborating very much with the Short Beach Company 4
Okay.
to try to keep those two working. And
Right.
then certainly Stony Creek is still
Right,
doing good.
Stony Creek.
Yeah.
Yep, and with the boat too in the creek. But you also have now a manned fireboat because Indian Neck Station is now staffed during the day, right, Monday through Friday.
Right.
That's part of this kind of Branford fire plan that was unveiled a few years ago. How's that working out?
It's working out fantastic. Within, I know you made the open house that we
Yeah.
had, right? So the 16 new EMS hires allowed us to add a second fully paid engine company. So there's a captain and 2 firefighters at that station. We moved one of the ambulances down there to improve the response times to that area. And it was immediately noticed by the community and embraced. And within the first week, we had a fire at the Tidelands condos that we were able to get to very quickly. And for that reason, it was a much less serious fire. It was still a serious, fire, but it was contained to not affect the units on either side or anything like that. So that was kind of the first, success story, larger success story, because every day they're doing good work down there. There's able to get to the people in that area much quicker than we used to. And then on 4th of July, we had a cardiac arrest down far down into kind of the Pawson Park area that if we traditionally would have had to wait for EMS units from headquarters to get down there. And that was a save. So the person was clinically deceased, right? They died. And because we were able to bring the emergency room to them quickly within that 4 to 6 minute time frame, and that there was good bystander CPR, which is very important too. So learn and practice CPR.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list.
Yes, and that person's here today because of that. And then there's every day, like I said, they're doing good work. So that was kind of the first phase of this fire plan, right? Is we wanted to address the the response times as well as the staffing issues and the call volume and all the other things that are putting pressure on us every day, the decline in the volunteers, et cetera. So, the second phase would be to add a station out east, which has been talked about since, the 1980s. It is the furthest reach for us, even from headquarters. It's a 10-minute response to the chowder pot and the transfer station and in those areas. And that's at night when there's no traffic. So, even places more distance to that, such as Stony Creek and everything in between, it's a good run for us. And, like I said, the volunteers are doing a great job, but the truth is that they all have jobs and families and they can't be there all the time. So we put a plan in place to address that. That would be phase 2. It really is the kind of the keystone to make everything that we're doing now work even that much better. Operationally, it allows us not only to have the additional engine company, which is important, and you have to remember the engine company is not just doing fires, right? So when those ambulances transport out of town, they're staffed with a paramedic who has all the equipment to bring the emergency room to your doorstep, and that's really our goal, to continue that level of care to the community, because it really does make a difference, and also for the fires and all the other things that we do. So. Exit 56 area is generally a great location for us because it allows us access to a very wide area of town. And once that would be to happen, we cover about 90% of the built-up area with a 4-minute response time. And just to explain response times a little bit, response time is after we've been notified, we've turned out, and now we're leaving the firehouse to get to you. So we're already that's 4 minutes. So before that, you had to discover the emergency. You had to call 911. They had to process that call and get us moving. We have to turn out, get in the vehicles, get to your house, and then take action. So that time is really
critical.
Precious in a lot of instances. And so, I think, having that plan and trying to do our best to bring that to fruition is really an important thing to the Branford community. And of course, we recognize there's a lot of needs in the community. And, we had a revaluation recently. People, home values had gone up significantly, so their taxes went up as well. And it's not unrecognized that, those are the pressures that the community feels.
Right.
So, we'll continue to advocate for that, but it'll be up to the electorate to tell us when they feel that is able to be supported.
Right. So on our most recent episode, the first selectman, Josh Brooks, was the guest, and we talked a lot about Freightliner and the Public Works Department. We didn't get into the aspect of Freightliner potentially being a location if the town is able to purchase it, as the plan is, the intention right now. The RTM just approved the bonding allocation, bonding resolution for 10.8 to purchase that building. But there's discussion of adding a firehouse to that building or, carving out a portion of that building to be the firehouse instead of the 32 Acorn Road. Why would that be a better location in your mind than?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. If I had my if I was able to wave a magic wand and say I want to put a firehouse in the perfect location, it really wouldn't be either of those locations.
Okay.
But the truth is when we started to look at, well, how could we bring this to fruition? The first challenge was a piece of property, and knowing that having to purchase the property on top of building a firehouse, on top of the cost of staffing that firehouse, would just make everything much more complicated and expensive to the community. So I was able to, I recalled a property on Acorn that had been an industrial site that had been, had closed and become abandoned and basically eventually razed. And I thought, well, wonder whatever happened to that and who owns that property, and maybe that's a potential, right? And so I called the engineering department, and the assistant engineer, Jen Aquino, told me, well, we own the property. It was taken in foreclosure through a tax lien, and that the property had been cleaned up because it was an environmental issue that caused the foreclosure as well as the taxes. And so I thought, well, it's not the perfect location, but it's an adequate location. And so I asked the RTM and the Board of Selectmen through the Fire Commission to approve that for a potential East Side firehouse. So that was where we were going with it. And then, of course, Public Works has been without a home since the fire headquarters was built. And I think that, having served on that committee long ago as well, I remember we did do a search townwide where Public Works could go, the firehouse could go,
Right.
or the two of us could go together. And initially, we had conceptual design. We did a search, community search. We had a conceptual design for the property between Tommy Sullivan's, or Clancy's now, and United Tire, which is still a vacant piece of property.
Right, it is.
And conceptually, we could put them both there in the plan. Our plan that we presented to the first selectman at the time was to do that, and then we could have sold the North Main Street property where firehouse headquarters is. And at the time, they said, hey, we're going to put Public Works at Tabor. That's where that all went and how that went down is not my world, but I think
It
that
was not welcomed by the
it wasn't
the 5th district, which is the district I represent.
That's probably the most. So, anyways, I mean, Public Works ended up in a very favorable lease to the town. I mean, it really was. They were getting a really good lease, and which is why there wasn't a lot of appetite to continue the search for them. But then, here we are. The landlord had different needs for the building now. We had to do something, and I thought that the Freightliner was a great piece of property. So when former Selectman Cosgrove called me and he said, Chief, they have this property that's attached to it that I think would be adequate for a firehouse. Instead of doing the Acorn Road project, would that be a problem for you? And we looked at it, and it's really apples to apples in its location. So it adds several advantages. Number one, it's a flat piece of property that has, instead of having to fit a building that fits, we can build the building we need. We can build it on one story without having the expense of 2 stories and an elevator and all of those additional costs. And there's even enough room on the property to build a fire training building, which we don't have right now, and still have enough property space for even more Public Works. Or I know there's been some talk about if there ever was need like a storage building for the community or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So
Everybody's
all of that
already got dibs on it, I think.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to look at it, you got to look at it from every angle, I think.
Right.
And so, from our perspective, it meets the goals, which is to get to as wide an area of the built-up community as we can within that 4-minute response. And access to the highway, so we can get to other areas of town much more quickly.
Yes.
We can go up the Thompson Road to Northford Road and the upper through Flax Mill and the upper Mill Plain and Northford area, which is another area where it's hard to get to from headquarters.
Right.
Certainly Stony Creek, and then everything down into the eastern side of Pine Orchard and everything in between. So it's a good spot.
Right.
And I thought that knowing what I know about, having been involved in building 2 firehouses and some of the other buildings in town, I mean, the renovation of the police department, those kind of things. $10.8 million is a pretty good price for the building that's built there, the property that's there, and I felt that you probably couldn't put a shovel in the ground and build the infrastructure in the ground. Never mind building for even
Right.
close to that. So it was.
I think the first
I think it was a
selectman
good
said
move.
it was like 12 to 16 to 20 million, depending on, if you had to build a building like that today.
Right.
Everything is so costly. So,
Sure.
hopefully it moves forward and the money's now in place so they can get moving on that.
Yeah, and the east side of town is still an area that is going to be developed. There are things in the works right now that are going through various either planning processes or applications for certification through one of them is an inpatient hospital facility. So there are a lot of there's a lot of potential still out there. Never mind the pressure that we already have today on our department. So
Right.
it's an important piece of the puzzle for us, and I hope we can at least continue the planning for it.
Right. So let's not forget we have a second guest here.
Well, this guy's job is to prevent fires
Yep.
and
Right,
and other
exactly.
emergencies.
So let's talk about, one of the classic ones, right,
Mm-hmm.
that people forget is the fireplace ash,
Fireplace
right?
ashes,
It's very cold. We're having a super cold winter,
Yep.
lots of snow. How should people properly dispose of fireplace ash?
When you're done burning in your fireplace, you should take all that ash out, put it away from your house in a metal bin, right?
That's covered with a
That's
metal.
covered. Yeah, covered, a small metal trash can. You can get them at the store, Home Depot, Lowe's,
Richland.
whatnot.
Richland.
everywhere you can get them. But yeah, in something that's metal, right? We've seen people put them in paper bags on their deck, and then that's just
Thinking
that's a
because
recipe for
I don't
disaster.
see anything.
I don't see anything. It's not hot.
Right.
But what happens is you have the ash and it's on an ember and it's around. And then as it just kind of falls off a little bit, you don't see that there's still glow on the inside. So it burns for a long time. So you might think your ashes are all died out and done, but they're still smoldering in there. And when you leave them, too close to the house on a deck, that's, like I said, a recipe for disaster. So you get them away from your house, get them in some sort of metal receptacle that's covered, and keep them away.
Right.
And I would also say, don't burn too hot in your fireplace. We've had a couple of instances where, fireplaces aren't designed, some of them, to burn like you would burn for heat, say for a wood stove, right? So if you're trying to burn and you're burning very hot in that, there's times when that pipe that's going up through the wall can come in contact with some sort of combustible material. The building itself gets overheated, and then it transfers that heat and creates a fire in the wall. So,
Was that the reason that fire we had in Pawson Park? The house, was it a fireplace and a chimney or some kind of issue there? That was a few years ago.
it could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been. We've had numerous different
Right.
causes.
Yeah.
And when I do the investigation for them, confidently we can say, yes, it was the fireplace, but I can't confidently say exactly what part of the fireplace.
Right.
Right. So sometimes those go as undetermined, and the best possible theory on what happened is the pipe was in contact with the wall or something like that.
So if you're looking to have a heat source, a heat source should not necessarily be your fireplace.
Yeah.
It should be a wood stove or a pellet stove, right?
Designed for producing heat.
The metal that can withstand a much higher temperature.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about is those
Decorative?
those more decorative fireplaces in a lot of our condominium complexes that were designed for almost like a Duraflame log type thing.
Yep.
Convert them to gas, do it that way, get the aesthetics, but they're really not meant to heat the homes.
To withstand
we've-
it, yes.
Over the years, there's been several fires in those types of caused by that same
Right.
type of fireplace in these.
Yeah, I know when I lived in a condo in Norwalk, it was, you can only really burn a Duraflame in your fireplace
Yeah.
because they just were not made for that.
Yep.
We are about to get a big snowstorm. We're taping this on Friday, right
Yes.
before this huge snowmageddon, right? That 10 to 18 inches.
Yeah,
One of the
Sunday.
things that helps out your department, of course, is the fire hydrants.
Fire hydrants, yes. So what we say is anywhere you see a fire hydrant, it's in front of your house, it's on the corner of the street, 3 feet at least around the fire hydrant. It might not be, your job to shovel it out, but I can tell you, it's definitely going to help. So if you see a fire hydrant, it's close by your house, you do it one year, your neighbor does it the next year, things like that. Make sure anytime you see a hydrant, just shovel it out for us 3 feet around, because if we can't see that hydrant, we can't use it.
Right.
All right. So we'll have our crews going out, and they'll go out, predominantly after the storm, shovel the hydrants out. But it really, really is a big help if homeowners, people can just shovel those out.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, smoke detectors, right?
Smoke
carbon
detectors,
monoxide,
carbon
right?
monoxide.
I mean, the people are probably worried, is my power going to go out?
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up with generators, right? Too close to a
So-
house and
yeah,
not
so if you're-
exhausted
Yeah.
properly.
If you're going to use a generator, make sure you're doing it correctly, right? Make sure it's designed for your house. Okay. Keep it away from the house if it's a portable generator. Anywhere where it's going to exhaust, keep it away from any of the window openings, the garage, things like that. You don't want any of that exhaust coming back into the house because that's going to produce CO. So we always say, 10, 15 feet away. Keep it as far away as you can, right?
Right.
And make sure, with that, you have your working CO detectors. You have working smoke detectors.
Yeah. They've become so sensitive, haven't they?
They have.
The smoke and fire and CO.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I've called on the fire department to come check mine out because it was chirping.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
what that means.
And sometimes it can mean
And you guys were
tons
great.
of things.
You know, you
Yep.
came and checked it out and said it's probably your battery. Buy a new one.
Yep. And now we have also recently to bring up in October they went and it went into Connecticut General Statute for smoke alarms. No more battery ones. You can't purchase the 9-volt battery ones in the state. You can only
Oh.
purchase the sealed ones.
Oh,
So-
with the lithium ion.
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You can
Typically a 10-year lifespan.
10-year. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And they did that because, what we see is a lot of times the smoke detector is disabled, right? Because the battery's out. It's
Yep.
chirping. It goes on the back burner for a lot of people. It's chirping. Let me take the battery out. I'll get to it. I don't grab a battery on the way home. I forget about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. So with the sealed lithium ion battery detection, you put those up. It comes with a little sticker. I tell everybody that I come in contact with the sticker. You put it on the side of it, put the date so you can see it.
Right.
Because otherwise the date's on the back, and when you mount it up to the ceiling, you're not going to take it down and look at the manufacturer date. So just put the date that it was manufactured on the side with a Sharpie. You'll know, hey, 10 years. They say 10 years. I say just check them around 8 or 9. Right.
Okay. Good rule of thumb.
Yeah,
Any other tidbits for people for safety?
for safety. There's
Don't drive like a maniac so the fire department doesn't have to come out and rescue you with the jaws of life.
Yep. Yep. No, don't drive like a maniac. But predominantly for fires, we say the working smoke detectors, the working CO in the house, have some sort of a plan, okay, and go over it with your family. Have one of the things that we like to say is have a meeting space outside of the house, right? So especially if you have young children in the house, where are they going to go? If everybody wakes up because they hear that working smoke alarm in the middle of the night, or they
Right.
smell smoke and they are able to get out of the house, but maybe everybody gets out of the house from different ways. Where are you going to meet, right? Have a place outside that you can meet that is visible, that the fire department's going to get there. We'll see you. You'll see us, things like that.
Right.
Yep.
So, Chief, getting back to this is the Branford Fire Department plan that you came out with in, I'll try to get that even here, trying to make it even, from 2023. Does this get updated? Is this kind of a roadmap? I mean, is this, what you'd like to see? We talked about the fire station out east.
Sure. So
we talked about staffing.
It was designed for two reasons: to communicate, number one, the need, right? Where we were, data-wise, where we could show that, hey, we hadn't had a significant staffing increase since the first one was in 2018, and that was 10 years after the previous one. And like I said, we usually are already getting crushed before we get additional help.
Right.
So we needed to communicate in a way that we, could show the need. And so we came up with did a lot of effort into putting that into this plan. We wanted to show the range of pressures we had. So we talked about the decline in volunteer, the increase in call volumes, the types of calls we go to, the services we provide. So it's not only is it a plan per se, but it's an educational tool to let the community know. And so there's a lot of links in there. If you go to the online version, where you can link to various articles, understand how many firefighters it takes just to fight a fire in a single family residence. So your typical ranch style house, the goal is to have the first due engine on scene within that 4 minutes, but have the balance of the assignment on scene within 9 minutes. And that includes, 15 firefighters, because there's so much that has to be done immediately to make an effective attack, especially if there's people entrapped in the house. So we wanted to just show that graphically, and also, link to the various research that goes along with that. So it's an educational tool. We've accomplished phase one by hiring the 16 EMTs and shifting into this kind of dual model. We tend to act very much like a team, and the goal wasn't to have two separate agencies again. Like originally, Branford Ambulance was a standalone, and it was merged with the fire department around 1992 or so. They are an integral part of a team. So everything we do is team orientated, and sometimes a call may only require 2 people to go on an ambulance. A higher level medical call may require 4 people because, again, we're bringing the emergency room to you. We do a 12 lead EKG in your living room. We recognize that you're having a myocardial infarction, heart attack, right? We call ahead, activate the cath lab, which is a very expensive and complex process. So for them to, for the doctors to be able to trust us to activate a cath lab, that's a big deal. But the goal is, that they say time is muscle, heart muscle, right? So the longer that vessel is occluded, the more likelihood you're going to have long-term effects, or we won't be able to solve the issue. So we do all that right in your living room, and then we start treatment right there, the same treatment you'd be getting in an emergency room, and we go to the hospital. And, even more, if you have a cardiac arrest or one of those calls, it requires even a little bit more of a team. So that comes with the fire engine. People will be like, well, why does the fire engine go to a medical call? Well, that's the reason. So we're bringing that extra help. That extra help only needs to be there in the beginning. We might take a person and send them with the ambulance if they need it. But then once the ambulance transports, we still have that first responder capability here. And so it really is a kind of a dynamic. It's based on, the type of call that you go to. A motor vehicle accident, you may get, an engine, a rescue truck, and an ambulance and the deputy. If it's a fire, you're going to get 3 engines, a ladder truck, a rescue truck, because all of that needs to go there. And, we can't kind of wait to get there to figure out whether we need that help, because now we're behind the 8 ball again.
Right.
So we always get the help coming, and if we don't need it, we always cancel it.
Right.
So that's kind of how we're structured, and as are most fire departments. It's also important to note that we have automatic aid agreements with East Haven and the Guilford Fire Department, so that when we do have what we call a working fire, they come as our standby. It's called a rapid intervention team, or it's a crew of firefighters that are there just to rescue us if we get in trouble. And it takes a lot of firefighters to get a single firefighter out wearing all that heavy gear if they should be incapacitated or unconscious in a rapid fashion to be able to affect, saving them. So that's why we have that team there ready to go. And so it looks like there's a lot of stuff there, but
Right.
it all has a purpose. And, it's all happened through lessons learned. Unfortunately, a lot of tragedies, like in Rob's Road, right? There hasn't been a single fire code that wasn't born through,
Yes.
tragedy, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, our first goal is to stop fires from happening. We also provide, we try to do CPR classes. We try to educate people on, how to prevent some of these things. And that's a role that we play in the community through community risk reduction, which Rob leads up for us. But that plan kind of explains all of what we do and the reason why we want to, we want to grow that east side so we can put that last piece of the puzzle together.
Right. Yep. And that's BranfordFirePlan.com.
.com.
Yes. Okay. What did I want to ask you about? The RTM.
The RTM.
You have a measure coming up at the next RTM meeting,
do.
right?
Yes.
You've asked the RTM to make some changes to ordinances that deal with reporting and inspections, and also private fire hydrants.
Private fire
Talk
hydrants,
about
yes.
those.
So two different things. Private fire hydrants, those are in condominium complexes, in business parks, things like that. Those are hydrants that are not owned by the town, not maintained by the town. So what we ended up doing was a number of years ago, we recognized that there was an issue, okay? We recognized it again through trial and error, we had a fire. And at this fire, the crew went to use one of the hydrants in the complex. As soon as they hooked up the hose to it, the hydrant fell over.
Oh.
No water is going to come out of the hydrant when it falls over.
Oh, gosh.
All right. So it
Yeah.
hadn't been maintained.
Right.
Okay. So they quickly identified another hydrant in the street. They were able to get water and get that hydrant in play. Fire went out. Okay. But we recognize that as a problem. All right. So in the town ordinance, private fire hydrants are required to be inspected annually, and those reports are required to be submitted into the fire marshal's office for review. All right. So we didn't have a great way to categorize them. They would come in. Some people would mail them in. Some people would drop them off. Some people would fax them in. Who knows, right? So they were kind of coming in, but we needed to organize them better, which leads us into the second part of that town ordinance, reporting software. We took in 2021 and went with a private company. It's called the Brycer Compliance System. Now, there's numerous different companies out there. So the way that we wrote this ordinance was whatever records management system that the town of Branford has adopted at the time. So again, we can grow and change.
You have some flexibility, because it
flexibility
keeps
moving forward.
probably changing all the time.
But what this system does is there's different reports that are required, be it annually, semi-annually, quarterly, for fire sprinklers, for fire hydrants, for fire extinguishers, fire alarms, any sort of a life safety fire system. Commercial kitchens, they have to do different cleaning requirements for their hoods. Suppression has to be tested. All right. But all of these reports go into this central database. So when I'm the business owner and I have a commercial kitchen, I pay a vendor, they come in, they service my equipment. They're going to provide me with a report. Traditionally, what would happen is I would go out and I would be doing that inspection and I'd get the report from that person. Now I have that report prior to the inspection. The vendor submits it online through this portal system, goes into the occupancy, into the address. And in my office, we can pull up a map. It shows us little blue icons or little orange icons for compliant versus non-compliant. Right now, we have about 1,200 systems that are in the town of Branford. We have 90% compliance on those. So it definitely helps getting it in there, right? So that reporting online helps me be more efficient. It's a force multiplier for me.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So instead of going out to do the inspection, all right, so a lot of places were required to be either annual inspections or triannual inspections. Well, if I go to a place that I'm required to go on a triannual basis, they're still supposed to be getting their, let's say, fire alarm tested every year. I might not see it those years that I'm not there, but I'll see it online. It'll show that it's compliant or non-compliant. So we have a better picture of the town. and it helps us track it, right? So that's the ordinance that we asked for the RTM to vote on to enact, right? Is a requirement to use that system. Again, we've been using the system since 2021, but we don't. It's not a requirement right now. It's just
Right.
how we're accepting the reports.
Yes.
But if we get that into an ordinance, it'll definitely help out a lot.
I don't think
And-
there's going to be any opposition
Yeah.
to that.
And one of the other features of it, like I said, it's a force multiplier, so it'll let the person know ahead of time, hey, your fire extinguishers are due for an inspection. You should be calling your vendor to get them out there. So
Right.
it gives them the warning, it gives us the warning, and then it gets the report in there and
Much more
categorized to show
proactive.
it's proactive.
Yeah. Yep. So that you aren't the one who always has to be
Mm-hmm.
telling or reminding.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I constantly will get phone calls from people. We got your letter with your signature on it. And I said, I didn't personally send it out. We send a lot of them out. So give me your address and I'll look it up and then we'll see what's going on.
Right.
And, constantly fielding phone calls, trying to,
Right.
get everything squared away for people.
Right. Well, Fire Marshal Robert Dubozinski
Yep.
and Fire Chief Thomas Mahoney, thank you both for being a guest here on Branford Voices and enlightening us about all the duties and the responses and everything else the fire department does. Once again, thank you for that.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. You'll have to come back. Hopefully not after a disaster. No disasters, right? Yeah.
Just one more thing before we
Yes.
go. In light of the upcoming storm,
Yes.
it tends to be. This is predicted to be a 10 to 18-inch snowstorm, depending on where you are. And if there's blowing and drifting, some of that stuff can cover exhaust vents for gas-fired appliances. So if you have a gas furnace, gas hot water heater, any of those gas appliances, make sure that you keep those vents clear. Sometimes they're closer to the ground if they're older installations,
Right.
and they can cause that carbon monoxide problem.
Right.
So.
And also, if you have the heat pumps, right, you want to make sure that you clear the snow off the top of your heat pump, right?
keep
so that
everything
the
clear
fan
and-
keeps,
Keep everything going.
yes, keeps everything going. Okay, good advice. You can find episodes of our Branford Voices podcast on demand on the Branford Community Television website. And you can also watch us on Channel 18 for those who still have cable. Some people do. You can find Branford Voices on Facebook as well. Thanks again for joining us. Take care.